Sherry. I am Jeannie Ewing, and I have my friend Sherry here, and we want to talk about making the ask. I
Mm.
subtitled it The Artist's Dilemma because I think that it is particular to those of us who have creative pursuits and professions. So I want to start, Sherry, by each of us can kind of give a brief introduction to our friends who are joining us. And then I'm going to kind of explain why I thought this might be a good conversation to have. And then you can take it after that. So I'm Jeannie Ewing, and I am the author of I Grow Strong Again here on Substack. I feature monthly guest essays on lots of different topics that have to do usually with some sort of hardship that someone has been through and life experience that is maybe different from the norm or the convention. And then how did that person move through that in a way that defined who they were or redefined themselves? And I also feature a lot of videos and essays about motherhood, specifically about my daughter, Sarah, who was born with a rare genetic condition called Apert syndrome. And I'm going to be launching a new Substack called Ghost Mother in January that I'm working on. So that's me. Sherry, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Sherry Taveras, and I have been on Substack, I think, a year and a half, Jeannie, I think. Um, my publication is Montemplative. Some people say Mon- it's hard to say. I don't even know. It's Montemplative, and I write about being a woman, being a mother, being a wife, being a human. And I'm sort of finding my legs with it, honestly, as I'm connecting more and more in the Substack community, what readers are drawn to. And they seem to be very intrigued with my relationship with my husband and the conversations that we have. And there's just a connection there. And, I love that because I love connecting with the community. It's like having conversation, without being in their physical presence. So that's what I really enjoy. And yeah, I mean that's me. I don't know.
I love you said that, Sherry, about like finding your way and your legs, you said, because I think a lot of us who are creative people, we might start out thinking that we're going to be creating one thing, and then it ends up path is very labyrinthine and it winds around somewhere that we weren't expecting. And I have noticed that the notes that you share, the posts that you write that have to do with this dynamic with you and your husband are really great because there's this combination of like entertainment with authenticity and vulnerability, and it's a good flow. And I also think it's really relatable for those of us or who are in like long-term partnerships. But when you were talking about community, like that's kind of what this whole topic today is about. Because I think that artists really can't live in a vacuum, and we really can't thrive without people who support us. And so I want to talk about why making the ask is hard. At least it is for me. And you can share whatever you want after I'm done with that part. But first of all, I was thinking the other day how trying to make it as a creative professional in this cultural climate almost feels to me like I'm standing on a street corner with a tin cup begging. Like, please, will you give me your spare pennies? And I hate that feeling of pleading with people, almost that desperation of like, hey, could you pay me for what I do? And I realize, in thinking about it, that when a culture doesn't really value its artists, it doesn't understand what they do. And therefore, it doesn't think that they need to be paid or compensated in some way. So when I started a GoFundMe a couple of months ago, which was actually a fundraiser for my daughter Sarah and her medical expenses, because we just found out she's going to be losing some of her Medicaid services through the state of Indiana. So I was trying to preemptively like, get on that so that we could have what she needs financially to kind of make up for that gap. But it was really icky feeling. I just felt kind of cringy on the inside. Like, I don't want to ask people for money. It almost feels shameful in a way. Like I shouldn't have to ask people for money. I should be self-sufficient. I should be independent. I should be able to get a normal desk job, 9 to 5, and earn a living. And then we don't have to worry about the inconsistencies in our resources. But I will tell you, Sherry, and everyone who's watching today, that it was this kind of this courageous act where I just like put it out there. Like, this is who we are, this is our circumstance. And however you're able to support us, whether it's sharing this link with your family and friends or on your social networks, donating $5, whatever you can do, like, I'm very grateful for that, deeply appreciative. And I was
Right.
shocked when I saw the level of support of people just rallying for Sarah and sending in donations above and beyond what I was really thinking would happen. And so we did reach our goal. But it's hard to make that ask. And Sherry, do you want to kind of talk about why that's hard for you and what you're working on?
Yeah, no. And the ask, I think, it's not just for creatives. It's just, that's how I see. But, we are speaking about artists specifically, but I think it's hard for us to ask anyways because there's so much attached to that. What is our work? What is our value? You know, um, and there, like you were saying, there's so much shame and guilt that's wrapped up in that. And, you know, that's our stories, from, childhood. There's so much that goes into that. And when you are put in a position where it's this vulnerability, where you're really, you want that support, but you're ashamed for whatever reason, whatever story you're telling yourself. Um, and for me, the example would be the writer's residency that I was accepted to in France. Um, I that's part of the ask. I had made a decision this year that I was going to insert myself in places that scared me, that would be places where I would be among my peers. That's why Substack was such an important step for me to enter into this space because I would be amongst my peers and the readers that appreciate our work would be here as well. Um, and so this writer's residency, it was one of those asks. It was for myself of, you know what, this is terrifies me. This scares me. This is for a certain type of person. This is for the academic and the one that has all the accolades and the credentials. I'm a mom and I let me say that with I am a mom. Okay. We are moms. And, it's hard for us. I think we don't value that because we don't get paid for all the work that we do as women, as mothers, staying home and raising our kids. So when we go for these things that we desire, like a writer's residency in France, you start to question, oh, you know, should I do it? Is it, am I worthy? All the things. But I decided to put in that application, Jeannie, back in July, and I just set it and forget it. I just, you know what? I'm not, they're not going to accept me anyway. I literally thought that, but I just wanted to put in the application. And then, last month I got the email. Congratulations. You've been accepted.
Tell everybody what this is that you got accepted into, this residency.
So the, yes, so the people know what those are, but it's real. Writers residencies are places where writers, artists are invited to a location that is just to support their craft without interruption. Usually they're 100% funded. um, Usually it takes a lot to come, for the application. essays. You have to do a lot to really get chosen to be in these spaces. And this one it's in Champagne, Ardennes, France. It's a chateau um, in that specific area, and they invite writers and artists to spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks completely supported. They get 3 meals a day, and they put things in place where you're able to share your craft, focus on your craft, and do and interact with other creatives to take you and elevate you in a way that you probably wouldn't be able to. At least for me, I wouldn't be able to have this opportunity uh, as a mother and someone who, you know, is just a recent empty nester and just didn't have the resources to do something like that. So when I got accepted, they do a partial scholarship with this particular residency. Um, and I was excited and grateful for the partial, but then I was like, uh, I got to get the rest. I don't have the rest of that, you know? And so it's kind of like when someone wins the Oscar and they didn't write a speech because they didn't think they were going to win. You're like, I'm not prepared. So that's what's going on with me. So I've had to do the ask of creating a GoFundMe for the first time in my life. And let me tell you, Jeannie, I got to tell you, the Substack community has rallied in a way that made me cry like every day.
Yeah.
And raised about 47% so far. But, you know, I feel like we were in the valley and now it's the climb up the mountain. And this is where it gets hard when you have to keep asking. And the challenge for me is I don't like transactional relationships. I've had really, I'm sure we can talk about that. You know, I've had some experiences where I thought people were my friends and it turned out they were just trying to get something out of me in a transactional way, which would have been fine had that been, you know,
The way that the relationship was established, if that was like a clear
exact
boundary. Yeah.
exactly. And I'm very protective and I'm so as we both are with this community, um there's such a special Substack Substack community is so special, and so you just want to protect it, and you don't want to tarnish it, you know, with spammy stuff. So I'm always very conscientious when going into these asks that people know where it's from and where it's coming. So doing this with you and really sort of putting it out there, it's not just about me; it's about our whole artist community. That we should feel able to step into these spaces where you feel supported and can feel, transactional.
Yeah. I love how you said that. And actually, Sherry, it's funny because this morning I was,
Am I frozen?
no, you're good. You're good now.
Oh dear, I think I'm frozen.
I can see you and hear you.
Did
Just
I oh, okay, you froze up.
okay.
Okay. Ah, I don't know. I'm in DR. Sometimes it happens, technical issues. So I
Yeah.
hope you guys heard all of that.
Yes. I heard most of it. But what I was gonna say is that I was getting my allergy shot this morning, and I'm weeding through some of these notes that I've taken over several books that have to do with waiting and why waiting is so hard, and what's the difference between activity and receptivity, and why is being receptive so difficult in a culture that values work, work for pay. And I came across this quote, and I actually thought about this conversation with you today, and I want to read it to everyone listening. But it's from Joseph Pieper's classic book called Leisure, The Basis of Culture, which is not a new book. He says the distinction between the liberal arts and the servile arts, that's what he calls other labor, like manual labor or anything like that, runs parallel with the terms honorarium and wage. The liberal arts receive an honorarium, while servile work receives a wage. The concept of honorarium implies that an incommensurability exists between performance and recompense, and that the performance cannot really be recompensed or compensated. Wages, on the other hand, are intended as payment for the specific work performed without consideration of the needs of the worker. So I was thinking about that because when we're talking about being an artist or trying to make a living as an artist or thrive in this type of community, we're really basing it off of a patronage model. We're really hoping that there will be people out there who see value in not only what we produce through our art, but in who we are. And that's really the core difference between like showing up at an office job or clocking in somewhere 9 to 5. Those are people, that's a conventional way of making money or making a living. Those are people who
Right.
generally earn a wage because there's something very specific that they are producing. There's an output, there's something tangible, there's something that is required of them, right? They can actually like log what they're doing, what they're making. Um, Whereas for those of us who are in the creative arts or the what Joseph Pieper calls the liberal arts, we don't have anyone usually knocking on our
Mhm.
doors saying, "Hey, can you write this article about the invisible labor of women," for instance, since you were bringing that up earlier, Sherry. Or, "Can you write this essay about raising a child with a disability and the healthcare system and all of the obstacles?" I mean, nobody's asking us to do that. We're not necessarily acclaimed. We're not people who are well known, and so it's a lot harder for us to know how to put ourselves out there in a way that is clear and addressing what our needs are. How do we need support? What are the options of how people can support us and why? Why do we need this support? And is it important enough for a community to come together and say, I actually want to pay for you to continue to do what you're doing because I believe in your message. I believe in the essential core values that you are sharing in this community. And this is how it's made an impact in my life. And I believe that you can make a bigger impact. And I'm going to show you that through my support. So I feel like the artist residency that you got accepted into is one of many avenues for artists to find that sense of support and community that isn't transactional, but is actually a way where the creative energy is flourishing and flowing and it is shared. It's cooperative. It's something that happens more in it's almost like I believe that when you join this residency and you participate in it, it's actually probably, Sherry, going to be something that actually burgeons and awakens something in you artistically because you are immersed in a community of other artists and because they are sharing their ideas and their whatever they're working on, music, painting, performance, poetry, whatever it is, you're going to be inspired by that, and that's natural for us to be able to do that in a community where artists are supported and uplifted and valued. And so having to be able to find that gap to get you to France, where you have a partial scholarship and you've raised part of the money that you still need to raise, but you still have to climb that mountain, like you were saying. That's the part that makes it, I think, a test for those of us who are called to creative work, because it's such an invisible part of existing in this world. It's,
Yeah.
um, it's not something that is highly valued, and it's not something that's easily compensated, and it's not something that we ourselves can often justify. It's so much
Right.
easier to say, "Oh, well, I'll just get a real job," and those are valuable. We need people who are working in different industries, who clock in and clock out, who
Right.
manufacture things, who are nurses and teachers and engineers and lawyers and doctors. We need them, but we also need the artists. And why is that? I can tell all of our friends here who are with us. The reason I believe that we need artists is that artists are often acting in a role of a prophet. And I don't mean a prophet like a fortune teller. I mean a truth teller. So artists tend to be the ones who uphold the fabric, the moral and ethical fabric of a society. They are the ones who point to truth. They are the ones who challenge existing social strata, systems, structures. They are the ones who unite. They are the ones who can speak into and against whatever's going on culturally. And so, without our artists, we don't really have our advisors and our counselors and our therapists and our priests and our poets, and we don't have them. We
Right.
simply have a transactional world. So that's what I want to say. And I want to know if there's any final thoughts that you want to share with our friends. And then we can share the link for your GoFundMe in the
I
post.
mean, and we can just end there. You said it all. For me, that was a class. That was a class on why, artists are so important. And I think that, you know, people are more that people are not tapped into or looking to be more tapped into that creative side of themselves. Um, because we have been, at least for me, I was raised in such a system. My dad was a military man, so everything was logical, and you know, you just didn't lead with the heart. It had to be logical and quantified, and everything that you said, Jeannie, everything you said. The artists, we bring the heartbeat, the pulse, to what is need, that balance. And I love how you shared that in community, that's how we're able to tap more into that part of us to thrive, to grow, to support. And you don't know what is going to come from being in a contained space like that for that amount of time, because we are in such a busy society. Do, go, 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 hustle culture. When as creatives, I think we're more slowing down and wanting to listen and be present and see and feel into, and to be able to have an opportunity like this for me, having raised, beautiful, beautiful children, my four children. But to be in that 24/7 as you are in it, in the thick of it, as you are now, and to have been now having all this open space to create my own dreams for myself and really to find out who I truly am as an artist, as a writer, something that I've always loved doing since I was a child. And to have this opportunity, I just don't even know like what's going to open up, like you said earlier. And a friend of mine who is she is becoming a friend. She's on Substacks. Her name is Sage Justice. She reached out to me, and she is an alumni of this writer's residency that I am attending. She attended with her husband and her daughter, who are all artists. And she has just been rallying and supporting me and just like, "You've got this," because I'm terrified to fly by myself over. I've never done this before by myself, but it's just amazing the support that I've received so far. And I'm so grateful. And it just shows you people want our art. People want your art. People want your voice. And if I can say that to all of us who are on Substack and off Substack and on this call, we want your art. Um, and however I can support, that's why I comment and like on as many as I can, you know, on Substack. But like you said, Jeannie, so better than I could. We need artists. We need artists. So, so in doing supporting me, supporting Jeannie, and doing these things and and being able to do it, it just helps elevate our society. That's
I believe
that's
that
how I
too. And I
feel.
want to tell everyone who's watching or listening that Sherry is an incredible human. She is also a very gifted writer. I've had the privilege of reading some of her lyrical essays and poetry, and she has this pure tonal quality to what she writes that is, to me, it's like reaching straight to the core of the heart. And so I would just encourage all of you to check out what Sherry already is doing on Substack and look at this residency that she has been accepted to, see what it's going to be like for her. And if you can support her monetarily, awesome. If you can't, there's no expectation for that, but we'd love it if you could please share the link, which we will offer in the replay of this post. And just share it like with your family, your friends, your social channels. If you believe in art and if you believe in artists and her message, her core values touch your heart, then that's what I would encourage you all to do because just building a relationship with you, Sherry, these past several months, just in this year, I have felt so much of the benefits of just of having a person who is even long distance, I know thinking of me, checking in with me, who cares about the things that I care about, who asks me specific questions about my life, who can hear when I'm leaving you messages, my 10-minute long WhatsApp messages, but you hear what I don't say. You notice
Mm.
the white space. That is a particular gift that I see in you. And I believe that it's something that also emerges in your art, in your creative work, is this ability to speak into what's not being said, but needs to be said. And you do it in a way that is compassionate and sensitive and gentle and kind. And we need that so much in this culture. So, friends, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And I hope that you'll check out Sherry's work, her creative work, and her Substack and GoFundMe link. And also, if there's anything that you want to contribute to this conversation about making the ask and what that means to you, I would love to hear more about that in the replay. So for now, if you do you have anything else you want to say, Sherry, before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I love you. You're making me cry.
I love you, friend.
I love you too, babe. And this is what community is, guys. I met Jeannie on Substack, and I consider her one of my closest friends. I love you so much. Thank you for supporting me. We love you, Terry Lee. um, and I just love you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for just your support, your friendship.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
This is all worth
Privilege to be
it.
your friend.
I love you.
Love you too. Okay, friends, love all of you too. We'll see you later. Bye.